The old house at the end of Miller Street had been empty for 20 years. Everyone in the small town of Greenfield knew the story. They said a rich man named Thomas Blackwood had lived there long ago. He had disappeared one night and never came back. Some people believed he had hidden treasure somewhere in the house before he vanished. Others thought he had simply run away from his problems. Nobody knew the truth. 12-year-old Sam Cooper had always been curious about the Blackwood house. He walked past it every day on his way to school. The windows were broken and covered with wooden boards. The garden was wild and full of tall weeds. The paint on the walls was old and falling off. But something about the house called to Sam. He felt like it was waiting for someone to discover its secrets. One Saturday morning in early summer, Sam woke up before the sun came up. He could not sleep anymore. His mind was full of thoughts about the old house. He decided that today would be the day. He would finally go inside and explore. His parents would be angry if they found out, but Sam did not care. The mystery was too strong to ignore. Sam got dressed quietly and went downstairs. His mother and father were still sleeping. He took a flashlight from the kitchen drawer and put it in his pocket. Then he opened the back door slowly and stepped outside. The morning air was cool and fresh. Birds were starting to sing in the trees. Sam walked through his backyard and climbed over the fence. The streets were empty at this early hour. Sam moved quickly through the quiet neighborhood. His heart was beating fast with excitement and a little fear. He had never done anything like this before. He was usually a good boy who followed the rules, but the Blackwood house had been calling to him for too long. When Sam reached the old house, he stopped and looked at it carefully. It was even more frightening up close. The roof had holes in it. Some of the wooden steps leading to the front door were broken. Dark shadows seemed to move behind the windows, but Sam knew it was just his imagination. He took a deep breath and walked toward the side of the house. Sam had heard that there was a small door on the side that led to the basement. He found it hidden behind some thick bushes. The door was made of old wood and had a rusty lock on it. Sam pulled on the lock, and to his surprise, it broke easily. The wood around it was rotten. He pulled the door open and looked into the darkness below. A set of stone steps went down into the basement. Sam turned on his flashlight and pointed it into the hole. He could see a concrete floor at the bottom. There were old boxes and furniture covered with white sheets. Spider webs hung from the ceiling like curtains. Sam felt scared, but he was also excited. He was really doing this. He climbed down the steps slowly, testing each one before putting his full weight on it. The air in the basement was cold and smelled like dirt and old paper. When Sam reached the bottom, he looked around with his flashlight. The basement was bigger than he had expected. It stretched out in all directions under the house. Sam walked through the basement carefully. He looked at the old boxes, but did not open them yet. He wanted to see the whole place first. In one corner, he found old tools hanging on the wall. In another corner, there was a pile of books covered with dust. Everything looked like it had not been touched for many years. Then Sam saw something interesting. On the far wall, there was a large wooden cabinet. It was different from everything else in the basement. It was clean, as if someone had wiped the dust from it recently. Sam walked toward it slowly. His flashlight made strange shadows on the walls as he moved. When Sam reached the cabinet, he noticed something even stranger. There were marks on the floor in front of it. The marks looked like the cabinet had been moved many times. Someone had been pushing it back and forth. Sam grabbed the side of the cabinet and pulled. It moved easily, sliding across the floor on hidden wheels. Behind the cabinet, there was a hole in the wall. It was not a natural hole or a crack. Someone had made it on purpose. The hole was big enough for a person to crawl through. Sam pointed his flashlight into the hole and saw that it led to a tunnel. The tunnel was dark and went deep into the ground. Sam stood there for a long moment, thinking about what to do. The smart thing would be to go home and tell someone about this. Maybe he should call the police or tell his parents. But Sam knew that if he did that, they would not let him explore the tunnel himself. They would take over and push him aside. This was his discovery, and he wanted to be the one to find out where the tunnel led. Sam looked at his watch. It was still early. His parents would not wake up for at least 2 more hours. He had time to explore a little bit and then come back later with a better plan. He got down on his hands and knees and crawled into the hole. The tunnel was narrow, but not too tight. Sam could move through it without too much trouble. The walls were made of packed dirt held up by wooden beams. Someone had built this tunnel a long time ago. They had spent a lot of time and effort on it. Why would someone make a secret tunnel under their house? Sam crawled for what felt like a long time. The tunnel twisted and turned, going deeper and deeper underground. Then suddenly, the tunnel opened up into a small room. Sam crawled out and stood up straight. He looked around with his flashlight and his mouth fell open in surprise. The room was full of things. There were paintings on the walls, some of them in golden frames. There were shelves filled with old books and strange objects. In the center of the room, there was a wooden table with papers scattered on top of it. And on the far side of the room, there was a large chest made of dark metal. Sam had found Thomas Blackwood's secret room. He had found the treasure that everyone in town talked about. But as he looked around the room, he realized that this was much more than just hidden money or gold. There were secrets here, secrets that had been buried for 20 years. Sam knew his life was about to change forever. Sam stood in the secret room with his heart beating like a drum. His flashlight moved across the walls, showing him more and more amazing things. He could not believe what he was seeing. This place was like something from a movie or a dream. But it was real, and he was standing right in the middle of it. He walked toward the table first. The papers on top were yellow with age. Sam picked up one of them carefully. It was a letter written in neat handwriting. The letter was dated 20 years ago, just before Thomas Blackwood disappeared. Sam started to read it slowly. The letter was from Thomas to someone named Elizabeth. In the letter, Thomas wrote that he had discovered something dangerous. He said that powerful people were after him. They wanted something that he had, and they were willing to do terrible things to get it. Thomas wrote that he was going to hide, and that Elizabeth should not look for him. He said he loved her and hoped to see her again someday. Sam put the letter down and picked up another paper. This one was a map. It showed the town of Greenfield, but it looked different from how the town looked now. There were marks on the map, circles around certain buildings. Sam recognized some of them. The library was circled. The old church was circled. And the town hall was circled. Next to each circle, there were numbers and strange symbols that Sam did not understand. Sam looked through more of the papers. There were photographs of people Sam did not recognize. There were lists of names and dates. There were newspaper clippings about events that had happened long ago. Everything seemed to be connected somehow. But Sam could not figure out how. Then Sam turned his attention to the metal chest on the other side of the room. It was big and heavy-looking. There was a lock on the front. But when Sam tried to open it, the lock clicked and the lid lifted easily. Someone had left it unlocked. Inside the chest, Sam found stacks of money, old coins, and small boxes filled with jewelry. This was the treasure everyone talked about, but there was something else in the chest too. At the bottom, under all the money and jewels, there was a leather bag. Sam pulled it out and opened it. Inside, he found a small notebook with a brown cover. The notebook was filled with writing, page after page of notes and drawings. Sam started to read the first page. The notebook belonged to Thomas Blackwood. It was his journal. In the first pages, Thomas wrote about his normal life in Greenfield. He talked about his work, his friends, and his plans for the future. But then the entries changed. Thomas wrote about discovering something hidden in the town's history. He wrote about secrets that the founding families of Greenfield kept for over 100 years. Sam sat down on the cold floor and kept reading. The journal talked about a group of people who had controlled the town since it was first built. They called themselves the Circle. The Circle had power over everything in Greenfield. They decided who got rich and who stayed poor. They controlled the police and the government. They kept secrets that could destroy lives if they were ever revealed. Thomas had stumbled onto the truth by accident. He had been looking through old records at the library when he found documents that were supposed to be destroyed. These documents showed that the Circle had done terrible things over the years. They had stolen land from families. They had hidden crimes committed by their members. They had even made people disappear when those people asked too many questions. Sam felt a chill run down his spine. This was bigger than he had imagined. This was not just about hidden treasure or a missing man. This was about secrets that could change everything people knew about their town. Sam wondered if the circle still existed. Were there people in Greenfield right now who were part of this group? He kept reading the journal. Thomas wrote that he had collected evidence against the circle. He had gathered documents, photographs, and recordings. He had hidden copies of everything in different places around town. The circles on the map must have marked where he hid the evidence. Thomas was going to expose the circle and tell everyone the truth. But before he could do that, they found out about his plan. The last entry in the journal was short and frightening. Thomas wrote that someone had been following him. He had seen the same black car outside his house 3 nights in a row. He had received phone calls where no one spoke, just silence on the other end. He knew the circle was watching him. He wrote that he was going to run away and hide. He would wait until it was safe, and then come back to finish what he started. But Thomas never came back. Something must have happened to him. Sam closed the journal and sat quietly in the dark room. He thought about everything he had just learned. The circle had been watching Thomas. They probably did something to stop him. And now Sam was the only person who knew the truth. Sam looked at his watch and jumped up in shock. 2 hours had passed while he was reading. His parents would be awake by now. They would be looking for him. He needed to get home fast. But he could not just leave everything here. He needed to take something with him. Sam grabbed the journal and the map. He put them in his pockets. Then he closed the chest and covered it with some old cloth he found in the corner. He wanted to make everything look the same as when he found it. He did not want anyone to know that he had been here. Sam crawled back through the tunnel as fast as he could. When he reached the basement, he climbed the stone steps and went out through the side door. He pushed the door closed behind him and moved the bushes to cover it again. Then he ran through the streets toward his house. When Sam got home, he climbed over the fence and went in through the back door. He could hear his mother moving around in the kitchen. He quickly took off his shoes and put the flashlight back in the drawer. Then he walked into the kitchen, trying to look calm and normal. His mother looked at him with a small smile. She asked where he had been so early in the morning. Sam said he had been in the backyard looking at bugs. His mother laughed and told him to wash his hands before breakfast. She did not suspect anything. Sam felt guilty for lying, but he knew he could not tell her the truth. Not yet after breakfast, Sam went up to his room and locked the door. He took out the journal and the map and spread them on his bed. He needed to understand everything better. He needed to figure out what to do next. Should he tell someone? Should he go to the police? Or should he try to find the other pieces of evidence that Thomas had hidden? Sam decided that he needed help. He could not do this alone. He thought about who he could trust. His best friend Marcus was smart and brave. They had known each other since they were little children. Marcus would believe him and want to help. Sam picked up his phone and sent Marcus a text message. He asked Marcus to come over as soon as possible. He said he had found something amazing and needed to show him. 15 minutes later, there was a knock on Sam's bedroom door. Marcus had arrived. Sam let him in and locked the door again. Marcus asked what was going on. His eyes were wide with curiosity. Sam took a deep breath and started to tell him everything. He talked about the Blackwood house, the tunnel, the secret room, and the journal. Marcus listened without saying a word. When Sam finished, Marcus sat down slowly on the bed. He looked at Sam with a serious face and said that this was the craziest thing he had ever heard. But he also said he believed every word of it. Sam and Marcus spent the whole morning studying the journal and the map. They read every page carefully and tried to understand what Thomas Blackwood had discovered. The more they read, the more worried they became. The circle sounded dangerous and powerful. If these people could make someone like Thomas disappear, what would they do to 2 12-year-old boys? Marcus pointed at the map and asked about the circles. Sam explained that Thomas had hidden evidence in those places. The library, the old church, and the town hall all had something hidden inside them. Thomas had spread the evidence around town so that if one hiding place was found, the others would still be safe. It was a smart plan. But it meant that Sam and Marcus would have to visit all 3 places to find everything. They decided to start with the library. It was the easiest place to visit without looking suspicious. Kids went to the library all the time. Nobody would think it was strange to see two boys walking through the building. Sam folded the map and put it in his pocket. Then he and Marcus told their parents they were going to the library to study. Their parents were happy to hear this and let them go without any questions. The Greenfield Public Library was an old building made of red bricks. It had tall windows and a big wooden door at the entrance. Inside, the library was quiet and cool. Shelves full of books reached all the way to the ceiling. There were tables where people could sit and read. An old woman with gray hair sat at the front desk. She smiled at Sam and Marcus when they walked in. Sam looked at the map carefully. Thomas had drawn a small symbol next to the circle around the library. The symbol looked like a star with 6 points. Sam did not know what it meant, but he thought it might be a clue. He and Marcus walked through the library slowly, looking for anything that had a star shape. They searched for almost an hour. They looked at paintings on the walls, decorations on the shelves, and even the patterns on the floor. Nothing matched the star symbol. Sam started to feel frustrated. Maybe they were missing something. Maybe the clue was not so obvious. Then Marcus called Sam over to a corner of the library. He was standing next to a big wooden pillar. The pillar had carvings on it, flowers and leaves and other shapes. But at the very top of the pillar, almost hidden in the shadows, there was a small star with 6 points. Marcus had found it. Sam looked at the pillar carefully. It was solid wood, or at least it looked that way. But when he pushed against one of the carved flowers, he felt it move slightly. He pushed harder and heard a soft click. A small panel on the side of the pillar popped open. Inside the hidden space, there was a brown envelope. Sam grabbed the envelope and quickly closed the panel. He and Marcus walked to a quiet corner of the library where nobody could see them. Sam opened the envelope and looked inside. There were several photographs and a small tape recorder. The photographs showed men in suits sitting around a table. Sam did not recognize any of them, but they looked rich and important. Marcus whispered that they should listen to the tape. Sam agreed, but they could not do it in the library. Someone might hear them. They put everything back in the envelope and left the library. They walked to the park near the center of town and found a bench far away from other people. Sam took out the tape recorder and pressed play. A man's voice came from the small speaker. He was talking to other people about money and property. He mentioned names of families in Greenfield. He talked about taking land from them using fake documents. He laughed about how easy it was to trick people. The recording was proof that powerful people in the town had stolen from ordinary families. Sam stopped the tape and looked at Marcus. They both understood how important this evidence was. If people heard this recording, they would know the truth about what had happened in Greenfield. But they also knew that whoever was on this tape would not want it to be heard. These people would do anything to keep their secret safe. Marcus asked what they should do next. Sam said they needed to find the other hidden evidence before they told anyone. The more proof they had, the better chance they had of being believed. They agreed to go to the old church tomorrow. It was Sunday, so there would be a service in the morning. But after the service, when everyone left, they could sneak in and search for the next hiding place. That night, Sam could not sleep. He lay in bed thinking about everything that had happened. He had started the day as a normal kid with a normal life. Now he was in the middle of a mystery that was bigger than anything he could have imagined. He felt scared, but also excited. He felt like he was doing something important, something that mattered. The next morning, Sam and Marcus met outside the church. The service had just ended, and people were walking out and going to their cars. The boys waited until almost everyone had left. Then they walked inside through a side door that was still open. The church was old and beautiful. There were wooden benches in rows facing a stage at the front. Tall windows made of colored glass let in light that painted the walls with red, blue, and green. The ceiling was high above, with wooden beams crossing from one side to the other. It was quiet now, peaceful and empty. Sam took out the map and looked for the symbol Thomas had drawn next to the church. This time the symbol looked like a cross with an extra line at the bottom. It was different from a normal cross. Sam showed it to Marcus, and they started searching. They looked everywhere they could think of. They checked the windows, the benches, the walls, and the floors. They searched the small rooms at the back of the church. They even looked under the stage where the preacher stood. Nothing had the special cross symbol. Sam was about to give up when he noticed something on the wall near the back door. There was a small metal box with a glass front. Inside the box, there was a list of hymn numbers for the day. But below the numbers, at the bottom of the box, there was a small cross with an extra line. It was the symbol from the map. Sam looked at the box carefully. There was a small keyhole on the side. He did not have a key, but he remembered that Thomas had left the chest in the secret room unlocked. Maybe Thomas did not lock things. Sam pushed on the glass front, and it swung open like a little door. Behind the hymn numbers, there was another brown envelope. Sam took the envelope and put it in his jacket. He closed the box and made sure everything looked normal. Then he and Marcus left the church through the side door. They ran to the park where they had been yesterday. They sat on the same bench and opened the envelope. This time, there were papers inside. They looked like official documents from the town government. Sam read through them slowly. The documents showed that certain families had paid bribes to get special treatment. They showed that buildings had been built without proper safety checks. They showed that money meant for schools and roads had gone into private pockets instead. Marcus shook his head in disbelief. The people running Greenfield had been cheating everyone for years. They had been stealing from the town and lying about it. And nobody knew the truth because these documents had been hidden. Until now. Until Sam and Marcus found them, there was one more place to search. The town hall was the last circle on the map, but it would be the hardest place to get into. The town hall was full of offices where important people worked. There were always workers and officials walking around. Two kids would look very suspicious trying to search through the building. Sam knew they needed a plan. They could not just walk in and start looking around. They needed a reason to be there, a way to search without anyone noticing. Marcus suggested they wait until next weekend. There was a town fair happening at the town hall on Saturday. Lots of people would be there, including kids and families. They could blend in with the crowd and search while everyone was distracted. Sam agreed that it was a good plan, but waiting a whole week felt like forever. Every day that passed was a day that something could go wrong. Someone might find the secret room under the Blackwood house. Someone might realize that evidence was missing from the library and the church. Sam knew they were taking a big risk, but they had no choice. The town fair was their best chance to finish what Thomas Blackwood had started. The week passed slowly for Sam and Marcus. Every day felt like a month. They went to school and pretended everything was normal. They ate dinner with their families and talked about ordinary things. But inside their minds, they thought only about the mystery. They thought about the circle and the hidden evidence. They thought about Saturday and what they would have to do. Sam kept the journal and the envelopes hidden under his bed in an old shoebox. Every night before he slept, he would take them out and read through them again. He was trying to find more clues, more information that could help them. He studied the map until he knew every line and mark by memory. He listened to the tape recording over and over. He was trying to recognize the voices. On Wednesday night, something strange happened. Sam was lying in bed when he heard a car outside his window. He got up and looked through the curtains. A black car was parked across the street. The engine was running, but no one got out. Sam watched for 10 minutes and the car just sat there. Then suddenly, it drove away into the darkness. Sam felt a cold fear in his chest. He remembered what Thomas had written in his journal. Thomas had seen a black car outside his house before he disappeared. Was someone watching Sam now? Did the circle know that he had found the secret room? Sam did not sleep well that night. He kept waking up and looking out the window. But the black car did not come back. The next day, Sam told Marcus about the car. Marcus looked worried but tried to stay calm. He said it was probably just a coincidence. Lots of people had black cars. It did not mean anything. But Sam could see that Marcus was scared too. They were both starting to understand how dangerous this adventure could become. On Friday afternoon, Sam was walking home from school when he noticed someone following him. It was a man in a gray suit. The man stayed about 50 feet behind Sam, walking at the same speed. Every time Sam turned a corner, the man turned to you. Sam's heart started beating faster. He walked into a grocery store and pretended to look at things on the shelves. The man in the gray suit walked past the store without stopping, but Sam saw him glance through the window. Sam waited in the store for 20 minutes. Then he left through the back door and ran all the way home. He locked the door behind him and sat on the couch, breathing hard. Someone was definitely watching him. The circle knew something. They might not know exactly what Sam had found. They knew he was involved somehow. That night, Sam called Marcus on the phone. He told him about the man in the gray suit. Marcus said maybe they should tell an adult. Maybe they had gone too far. But Sam said they could not stop now. They were so close to finding everything. Just one more piece of evidence, and they would have enough to expose the circle. They had to finish what they started. Saturday finally arrived. The town fair at the town hall was a big event. There were games and food and music. Families came from all over Greenfield to enjoy the day. The building was decorated with colorful flags and balloons. The smell of hot dogs and cotton candy filled the air. It was the perfect cover for what Sam and Marcus needed to do. They arrived at the fair with their families. Sam told his parents he was going to play games with Marcus. His parents said to stay safe and have fun. Then Sam and Marcus walked away into the crowd. They moved through the groups of people until they reached a side entrance of the town hall. The door was open to let in fresh air. They slipped inside without anyone noticing. The inside of the town hall was mostly empty. Almost everyone was outside enjoying the fair. Sam took out the map and looked at the symbol next to the circle around the town hall. It was a shape like a diamond with a dot in the middle. They needed to find this symbol somewhere in the building. They walked through the hallways quietly, checking every room they passed. Most of the offices were locked, but a few were open. They searched quickly, looking at walls and floors and furniture. They found nothing with the diamond symbol. The building was bigger than they had expected, and time was running out. Marcus suggested they check the basement. Important documents were often kept in basements. Sam agreed, and they found a staircase going down. The basement was dark and full of filing cabinets. There were boxes stacked against the walls and old furniture covered with sheets. It looked like a place where things were stored and forgotten. Sam turned on his flashlight and started searching. He moved between the filing cabinets, looking at each one. Then he saw it. On the back wall, there was an old painting in a dusty frame. The painting showed the founders of Greenfield standing together, and in the corner of the painting, there was a small diamond shape with a dot in the middle. Sam walked to the painting and lifted it off the wall. Behind the painting, there was a safe built into the wall. The safe had a combination lock with numbers from 0 to 99. Sam's heart sank. He did not know the combination. They had come so far, and now they were stuck. Marcus came over and looked at the safe. He asked Sam if Thomas had written anything about combinations in the journal. Sam thought for a moment. Then he remembered something. In one of the journal entries, Thomas had written a series of numbers. Sam had thought they were dates or codes, but now he realized they might be safe combinations. Sam tried to remember the numbers. They were 23, 45, and 67. He turned the dial carefully, right to 23, left to 45, and right again to 67. He heard a click, and the safe door swung open. Inside, there was one more brown envelope, thicker than the others. Sam grabbed the envelope and was about to close the safe when he heard footsteps above them. Someone was coming down the stairs to the basement. Sam quickly put the painting back on the wall and looked for a place to hide. He and Marcus crawled behind some large boxes in the corner and stayed very still. A man walked into the basement. Sam could see him through a gap in the boxes. It was the man in the gray suit, the one who had followed Sam on Friday. The man looked around the basement slowly. His eyes moved across the room, searching for something or someone. Sam held his breath and prayed they would not be found. The man walked toward the painting on the wall. He lifted it and looked at the safe. He tried the handle, and the safe opened. Sam realized with horror that he had forgotten to lock it again after taking the envelope. The man looked inside the empty safe and made an angry sound. He took out a phone and called someone. He said the evidence was gone and that someone had beaten them to it. Sam and Marcus stayed hidden behind the boxes, not daring to move. The man in the gray suit talked on the phone for a long time. He mentioned the circle several times. He mentioned names that Sam recognized from the journal. These were powerful people, important people, and they were very unhappy that their secrets had been stolen. Finally, the man left the basement. Sam and Marcus waited another 10 minutes to make sure he was really gone. Then they crept out from behind the boxes and ran up the stairs. They went out through the side door and joined the crowd at the fair. They acted normal, eating cotton candy and playing games, until it was time to go home with their families. That night, Sam opened the envelope from the town hall. Inside, he found the most important evidence of all. There were signed confessions from members of the circle. There were bank records showing stolen money. There were photographs of crimes being committed. This was everything they needed to bring down the circle and reveal the truth to everyone. But Sam also found a letter at the bottom of the envelope. It was from Thomas Blackwood, written the night before he disappeared. Thomas wrote that if someone was reading this letter, it meant he had failed. It meant the circle had gotten to him before he could expose them. He asked whoever found this evidence to be careful. He asked them to be brave, and he asked them to finish what he could not. Thomas wrote that the truth was more important than one man's life. The people of Greenfield deserved to know what had been done to them. Sam put down the letter and felt tears in his eyes. Thomas had sacrificed everything for this. And now it was up to Sam and Marcus to make sure that sacrifice meant something. But how could two 12-year-old boys take on the most powerful people in town? Sam did not know the answer yet, but he knew he had to try. Sam and Marcus met early the next morning in their secret spot at the park. They spread all the evidence on the bench between them. There were photographs, documents, recordings, and the letters from Thomas Blackwood. Everything was there. But having the evidence was only half the problem. They still needed to figure out how to use it. Marcus said they should go to the police. Sam shook his head. The journal mentioned that some police officers were part of the circle. They could not trust anyone in authority. Marcus then suggested the newspaper. Every town had reporters who wanted to write big stories. Maybe a reporter would believe them and help expose the truth. Sam thought about it. The Greenfield Gazette was the local newspaper. It was small, but people read it every week. If the newspaper published the story, everyone in town would know about the circle. The powerful families would not be able to hide anymore. It seemed like the best option they had. They found out that the newspaper office was on Main Street. It was a small building next to the bakery. Sam and Marcus walked there together, carrying a backpack full of evidence. They were both nervous but determined. This was the moment they had been working toward. This was their chance to make things right. When they entered the newspaper office, a young woman looked up from her desk. She had short brown hair and kind eyes. She asked if she could help them. Sam said they had a story for the newspaper, a very important story. The woman smiled and said she was always looking for good stories. She invited them to sit down and tell her everything. Sam started from the beginning. He told her about the Blackwood house and the secret room. He told her about the journal and the map. He told her about the hiding places in the library, the church, and the town hall. He told her about the circle and all the terrible things they had done. The woman listened without interrupting. Her face grew more and more serious as Sam talked. When Sam finished, he opened the backpack and took out all the evidence. He put the photographs on the desk. He showed her the documents and the recordings. He gave her Thomas Blackwood's journal and the letters. The woman looked at everything with wide eyes. She picked up some of the papers and read them carefully. She listened to part of the tape recording. After a long silence, the woman looked at Sam and Marcus. She said her name was Rebecca Hayes. She said she had worked as a reporter in big cities before coming to Greenfield. She had always felt that something was wrong in this town. She had noticed how certain families always got what they wanted while others struggled. She had wondered why nobody ever talked about it. Now she understood why. The circle had kept everyone silent for generations. Rebecca said she would help them. She said it would be dangerous, but some things were worth the risk. She made copies of all the evidence and stored them in different places. She said they needed backup in case anything happened to the originals. Then, she started writing the story. She worked all day while Sam and Marcus waited in the office. By evening, the story was ready. It was long and detailed, covering everything from the founding of Greenfield to Thomas Blackwood's disappearance. Rebecca had included all the evidence, all the names, and all the crimes. She showed it to Sam and Marcus. They read it together and agreed that it told the truth completely. Rebecca said the newspaper would publish a special edition the next morning. She said copies would be delivered to every house in town. There was no way to stop the truth from spreading. The Circle would finally face justice for what they had done. That night, Sam could not sleep again. But this time, it was not from fear. It was from excitement. He kept imagining what would happen when people read the story. He imagined the shock on their faces. He imagined the anger when they learned how they had been cheated. He imagined the powerful families being arrested and taken away. Justice was finally coming to Greenfield. The next morning, Sam woke up early and ran outside. The newspaper was on his front porch, as always. But this was not a normal newspaper. This was the special edition with Rebecca's story on the front page. The headline was in big black letters. It said the truth about the Circle had been revealed after 20 years of secrets. Sam's parents came outside and picked up the newspaper. His father started reading, and his face turned pale. His mother put her hand over her mouth in shock. All around the neighborhood, Sam could see people standing on their porches reading the same story. Some of them were crying. Some of them were shouting. The whole town was learning the truth at the same moment. Within hours, police cars from the state capitol arrived in Greenfield. These were not local police who might be part of the Circle. These were investigators from far away who had no connection to the town. They started arresting the powerful families one by one. Sam watched from his window as men in expensive suits were led to police cars in handcuffs. It was the most amazing thing he had ever seen. The story made news all over the country. Reporters from big cities came to Greenfield to interview people. They called it one of the biggest corruption cases in history. They talked about how a small town had been controlled by a secret group for over 100 years. And they talked about the brave young boy who had discovered the truth. Sam became famous overnight. Everyone wanted to talk to him. Everyone wanted to hear his story. But Sam did not want attention for himself. He wanted people to remember Thomas Blackwood. Thomas was the real hero. He had collected all the evidence and hidden it for someone to find. He had given everything to expose the truth. Sam was just the person who finished what Thomas had started. A few weeks later, something unexpected happened. Sam received a letter in the mail. It was from a woman named Elizabeth Blackwood. She was Thomas's wife, the Elizabeth from his letters. She wrote that Thomas had survived his escape from Greenfield 20 years ago. He had been hiding in another country, waiting for the day when his evidence would finally be found. When he heard about Sam on the news, he knew his mission was complete. Thomas was old now, but he was coming home. He wanted to meet Sam, the boy who had given him his life back. He wanted to thank him in person. He wanted to see Greenfield one more time. Free from the shadows of the Circle, Sam read the letter with tears running down his face. Thomas was alive. The man who had started this whole journey was coming home. Sam could not believe it. The story that had begun in a dark basement was ending in the sunlight. A month later, Sam stood at the bus station with his parents and Marcus. They were waiting for Thomas Blackwood to arrive. When the bus pulled in, an old man with white hair stepped off. He looked tired but happy. He smiled when he saw Sam standing there. He walked over slowly and put his hand on Sam's shoulder. Thomas said he had waited 20 years for this moment. He said he had almost given up hope many times. But he had always believed that someday, someone would find the truth. He had never imagined it would be a 12-year-old boy with a flashlight and a curious heart. He said Sam had more courage than any adult he had ever known. Sam did not know what to say. He just smiled and shook Thomas's hand. Then Thomas did something that surprised everyone. He hugged Sam tightly like a grandfather hugging his grandson. He whispered thank you into Sam's ear. He said Sam had saved not just him, but an entire town. The people of Greenfield gathered to welcome Thomas home. They apologized for what had happened to him. They promised to build a new town, one based on honesty and fairness. They made Thomas an honorary citizen and named a street after him. It was the beginning of a new chapter for Greenfield. As for Sam, his life went back to normal slowly. He went to school and played with his friends. He ate dinner with his family and did his homework. But he was different now. He had learned that one person could make a difference. He had learned that the truth was always worth fighting for. And he had learned that courage could be found in the most unexpected places. Even in the heart of a young boy who simply wanted to explore an old house at the end of the street.